Check, check.
Singing is one of the Nigunim called the Meir Shlomi Yanovsky's Volach. Rabbi Tzimchani's father, Rav Nikolai. Oh,
Welcome everyone gathered here in person and for all those gathered online. We are here this evening to strengthen our homes in tribute to Rebbe Tzimchana, Aleh Shalom, the Rebbe's mother, whose 55th yahrzeit we mark this Shabbos, Vav Tishrei. Before beginning tonight's program, I would like to thank a few individuals who helped make this beautiful event possible. Thank you, Rabbi Moshe Kolarski, Vice Chairman of America's Linyani Chinuch, for all your encouragement and support for this initiative, and may the Eibishter bench you, La'arichas Yamim V'Shanim Tovos, to continue all the holy work you do for so many shluchim and anash around the world, around the clock, and around the year. Thank you, Yossi and Mrs. Nechama Dina Katz, for your generous support, but not only for this evening, but for all that you do in honor of the Rebbe and his parents. May you have much nachas and simchas and much success in all that you do. L'mayla min hamishur. Thank you, Reb Shlomi and Mrs. Mirla Greenwald, Zalmi and Mrs. Sarah Cohen, for all your encouragement and support for this and many other programs this past year and many more to come, Be'ezus Hashem. Thank you, Yerachmiel and Rivka Leah Jacobson, so much for everything that you do for our community and for individuals, and a very special happy birthday for your daughter Chana and Druzier, who's named after Rebbe Tzimchana. May you have much nachas from her and her entire family. A quick thank you to Zalman and Devorah Vyshetsky, Mendel and Sarla Pinson, Nussi and Gitti Sternberg, and the entire Duchman family and Rubashkin family for all their continuous encouragement and generous support. Thank you, Rabbi Yossi and Mrs. Shani Freeman of Kahas Publications, for all your time, talent, and input. A very special thank you to a dear friend, Mendy Druckmann, for working so hard, last minute, overtime, and really going above and beyond for all the beautiful graphic design work that he's done for this and all other projects. Thank you, Mendy. Thank you to the staff of the Deher for your talent and for promoting tonight's event. Last but not least, thank you, Mrs. Sofer of COL Live, for promoting tonight's event and for all that you do for our community and really the community around the world. Thank you. I hope this is actually the second event since Chafav. Chafav was the first at chafavtribute.com. Now it's strengthenourhomes.com. I hope this is the first of many more such programs, and that the Rebbe and his parents have tremendous nachas from us all, and I'm sure they do. Please, your attention to the video screens.
tzedek, composed the niggun that he would sing at the tzin of his mother, Rebbetzin Dvei Leah.
Thanks for the reminder to silence cell phones. Wow. When, I mentioned Chof Av, for those who were there, the Hayemim of Daled Tammuz. It says that Chosid Echad, a Talmud Echad, that just one person, one student, who puts his mind to it to strengthen Torah, can be Poyel Yeshuas in a Ir Gedola in all matters that affect that city. So, Menachem, I just want to thank you again for the schus of having this amazing, incredible evening. I thought it was crazy enough when you said that Chof Av, in the middle of the summer, when half of Crown Heights is in the country, we're going to fill the Jewish Children's Museum. But you said, no, that wasn't crazy enough. We're going to do an event at the Razag in the middle of Tishrei. So, Baruch Hashem. Tonight's purpose
is to honor the Rebbe's mother. And to honor the Rebbe's mother in the manner that the Rebbe spoke about, which is to strengthen our own homes, and by extension strengthen our community, and by extension strengthen the world, through the three pillars upon which the Jewish home stands, which are the Rosh HaTevis, the acronym of the Rebbe's mother's holy name, Chana, which stands for Chala, Nida, Hadlakas Neir. So, when it comes to Mivtzoyim, when it comes to Yanam, dealing with somebody else, we know what to do. And there's plenty of work to be done. And I want to mention actually two orders of business. There are Neshek kits to be procured on the way out that you can use on Mivtzoyim. That's the first order of business. The second thing, probably should have mentioned from the very beginning. After all, what we do in order to bring Besuras Tevis to the Rebbe. Everyone who's participating tonight in honoring the Rebbe's mother on her yahrzeit is privileged to be able to bring Besuras Tevis to the Rebbe. So if you'll go to strengthenourhomes.com and fill out your name and your mother's name, the names will be brought, Emir Hashem, tomorrow to the oil. So as I was saying, Chala, Nida, Hadlakas Neir, okay, that's good for Mivtzoyim. But, what about us? And yet the Rebbe said this is shaykh to all of us, and not just all of us collectively, but each of us individually, and to anoshim, noshim, v'taf, men, women, children. And the Rebbe said, Ayse, that we should increase, we should add on in these inyonim. But these are basic things. These are basic Judaism. How can we add? How can we increase in a manner befitting honoring the Rebbe's mother? So here's what I want to share with you, and this is really a theme for tonight. There's more. It's funny because this was the name of the Chaf of presentation about the Rebbe's father's Tejada. There's more than meets the eye, but it's true again. There's more than meets the eye. The things we think we know, the things we think we're used to, old hat, familiar, they can become new again. Nothing new has to be brought into your life in order to have a completely new life. All you have to do is change the way you look at it. The Friedrich Rabbit was once traveling through Central Europe, and he was in a fancy hotel in Vienna, Austria. And there was a contingent of Weltischer Askonim, and they came to speak with him. And they were asking the Friedrich Rabbit, "Was hat Chassidus aufgetan? What did Chassidus accomplish, or what did it innovate in Judaism?" Now, you understand that that's a double bind, right? That either way you move, you're in trouble. No? Okay, let's play it out. If you say, well, I'll tell you what new thing Chassidus added to Judaism. Well, hold it right there. Why are you adding? Right? We have enough trouble already with people making new, improved versions of Judaism, right? Leave it alone. Okay, on the other hand, what if you say, oh, Chassidus didn't in fact add anything. Oh, perfect, that's what I have right now, so I'm good. So what did the Friedrich Rebbe say? As I said, they were in a fancy hotel in Vienna, very opulent, very ornate. And on the wall, the wooden paneling of the wall had crown molding with very fancy carvings. So the Friedrich Rebbe tilted the lamp so the light was shining on the top of the crown molding, and he asked these activists if they could see the carving of the flower in the crown molding at the top of the wall. And they said yes, they could, because the light was shining directly on it. So then the Friedrich Rebbe asked them, did you see it before while we were talking? They said no. He said, but was it there the whole time? They said, yes. He said, that's what Chassidus does. What's the difference between a dark room and a well-lit room? The moment you turn on the lights, it doesn't add anything of substance to the room. The same furniture that was there is there. The same people that were there are there. The same decor that was there is there. The only difference is now you see it. Now you see it. And that's really the theme of gaining a new appreciation for these mitzvahs. And not only is it the theme of gaining a new appreciation for these mitzvahs, it's the theme of these mitzvahs, because all three of these mitzvahs enable us to see with new eyes things that we've been taking for granted, things that are very close to home. You know, there's an expression in English, familiarity breeds contempt. I don't know if contempt, but in Tejada, there's also a concept of libe gas ba, that when something becomes familiar, you don't give it the respect, you don't give it the honor that it deserves. So that's what we're doing here. We are here to get new eyes, to be enlightened, to look at our lives in a brand new way. And we're going to do it with the structure that the Rebbe set forth, these three mitzvahs. Now, the order that I'm going to go in is actually the order in the source that the Rebbe refers to whenever the Rebbe says ki yadua, as is known. These three mitzvahs are the letters of Chana, and that source is the Megale Amukais. Ich bin doch an Einikel, so I have to mention the Megale Amukais. That he says the mitzvahs are hachein. Rosh Hashanah is hachein. So the order is Hey Ches Nun. Hadlaka, Chala, Nida. And the Rebbe says that order also is significant because that's the order chronologically in which a girl comes into these mitzvahs. And in fact, the Rebbe makes a very big point about the idea that Hadlaka is the first mitzvah that the girl gets to do. And the Rebbe made a very big point about the idea that even 3-year-old girls start lighting Shabbos candles. In fact, the Rebbe told many people even younger than 3. And the Rebbe says in the Medrash that talks about the first Yiddish mama, about Sarah Imenu, and when Yitzchak married Rivka, and she came and she replaced Sarah. And how did Yitzchak know that Rivka was like his mother? The Medrash says 3 miracles. What were the 3 miracles? That her ner was dolik me'erev Shabbos, le'erev Shabbos. The candle stayed lit from Friday to Friday. And there was a bracha metzuya bi'isa. The dough was blessed, so no matter how many guests came, everyone was satiated. And there was an onun kosher ba'ayhel, a protective cloud over the tent. And the Rebbe says these 3 miracles also correspond in order to the lighting of candles, obviously the lighting of candles, the bracha in the dough, obviously challah, protective cloud, the makif, the surrounding, it's like the mikveh, family purity. And the Rebbe says this is the order that a girl does them in her life. First she benches licht, then she participates in preparing food, and then eventually she gets married, and she's able to keep the laws of Tahara. So I'm going to go in that order. I'm going to start with Hadlaka. So like I said, tonight's theme is about turning on the lights. So here we go. Let's turn on the lights. Hadlaka. The wisest of all men, Shlomo Melech, said, Ner mitzvah v'teira oir. That a mitzvah is a lamp and Torah is a light. But then you have a mitzvah that's an actual light. It's both symbolically a light, like all mitzvahs are lights, but also it's a literal light. And it compounds the idea of light. What's the idea of light? Like we said, it doesn't add anything substantial to what's there, but it allows you to see what was there already. And as such, it has a powerful effect on uniting the family. Uniting the family. There's a Mishnah in Negoyim. Speaks about tumas tsaras, the impurity of a leper, biblical leprosy. So what happens? The scenario in the Mishnah is this mitzayra, this person with biblical leprosy, walks into a house. Now, it's not his own house. If he comes into his own house, he's mitama, he defiles his home. What if he walks into his neighbor's house? Does he defile the neighbor's house? Well, the Mishnah says it depends. Did they let him come in or not? Well, how do you know they let him come in? If they kick him out. Okay, how long do they have to kick him out? Rabbi Yehuda says the amount of time is kedei lahadlik ner. The amount of time it takes to light a candle. And the Tiferes Yisrael says, ner Shabbos. What's the scenario? The people were benching licht. Some mitzvah came in. They were in the middle of their farnumen with licht benching, so they had to finish, and they make the brachas. And then they turned to him and say, hey, get out, buddy. Mitzvah, get out of our house. And then they're saved. There's no tzaras. But the Rebbe asks a question. What's the deal with this? It's a funny way to quantify an amount of time. I mean, if you want to describe things that go on in the house, there are things that are more common that happen in a home. Shabbos candles is only once a week. But of course, as we know, everything that's in nigla, everything that's in the revealed or the legalistic aspect of Torah, is also fitting according to the secrets of Torah. So the Rebbe explains like this. What is tzaras? We know the Mitzvah's rehabilitation is midah keneged midah. He caused pirid lavavis. He caused a rift between husband and wife, between friends, through lashon hara. Therefore, his rehabilitation is he sits outside of the camp. He sits bodod, isolated, and then he's able to rejoin society. So tumas tzaras means the negative spirit of isolation, where someone feels lonely, when someone feels separate from others. What does it mean, tumas tzaras, taking hold of a bias, a home? It means living under the same roof with strangers. Tumas tzaras takes hold of the house. It means you pass people in the hallway. They're called family members, but you don't know them and they don't know you. What's the antidote? Today especially, we've never been more connected before through technology, and yet people are alone. I heard a comedian say, how do you call a family meeting in 2019? He says, you go to the room where the router is, and you unplug it, and then one by one, the whole family comes and you have a family meeting. It's funny, but it's not funny. So what's the antidote to living under the same roof with strangers? The candle. You light the candle. Remember, we said lighting a candle means allowing yourself to see what was already there. I'm lonely, you're lonely, we're all lonely. But you know what? Open your eyes. There are people in your house. They have lives, they have hopes, they have dreams. They want to talk to somebody. And I want to tell you something. If they're not talking to you, they'll find somebody who will listen to them. If we don't be a listening ear to our family members, especially our children, when they come home and they want to talk to us, and maybe we're busy and maybe we're stressed, and maybe we didn't keep track of exactly who's their friend this week and who's their enemy, and we're not following it, and we don't want to know something. If, God forbid, would come a day where your child would go to somebody else to talk about their personal issues, to talk about what's on their heart, I don't have to describe the pain that causes us and how we yearn for when they used to come home and want to turn to us. When a spouse gives up on talking to their life partner because they don't feel heard. But there's an antidote, and the Rebbe describes it. He says, light the candle, as if you can chop it before, and light that candle quick. Then the tumas tzaras, the spirit of alienation and isolation, will be banished from the home. And the Rebbe describes a Shabbos family meal. The Rebbe describes a mommy and a tati and children sitting at the Shabbos table. And the Rebbe talks about how because you can't speak divrei chayil, so the father, what's he going to speak about? He's going to speak about the drasha that he heard in shul. And he's going to ask the children about what they've been learning. And they're going to talk, and they're going to bond, and they're going to be a family. So that's the first thing about Hadlakas Ner. Turn on the lights and see the people you're living under the same roof with. There was a Maggid, not the Dubna Maggid, but a contemporary of his, also a Litvischer Maggid, from Shishuk. He used to go around, he was an itinerant preacher, and when he would come to a town, he used to have a drasha that he would always say. This was his go-to drasha. He would come to a town, and he would always have the same drasha about Achdus. But how would he do it? He did it with a nice mashal. He'd say, you know, I'm a traveling preacher. And you know where my last gig was? I'm coming right now from Gehenna. I was just in Gehenna, yeah. So I want to tell you about Gehenna. He says, I went to Gehenna, and I saw they had long tables with silver platters full of sumptuous food. And I started thinking to myself, this is Gehenna? But then I got closer, and I saw the people looked very annoyed. They didn't look satisfied. They didn't look happy. So I looked a little closer, and I saw they had wooden slats tied to their arms so that their elbows couldn't bend. And they had spoons tied to the end of their hands. And so they would scoop the sumptuous food, but they couldn't bring it to their mouths. And they were starving, and they were cranky, and they were all mad at each other. He says, but after that, I decided I wanted to see Gan Eden. So I went to Gan Eden. You know what I saw? The same long tables, silver platters, sumptuous food, the same setup they had in Gehenna. But I looked around, and everybody looked well-fed. Everyone looked relaxed. Everyone looked happy. I was trying to figure it out. I saw they had the same slats tied to their arms with the spoons tied to the ends of their hands. They couldn't bring the spoons to their mouths. So I was trying to figure out why they were happy. And then, after a while, I saw it. One of the people there in Gan Eden said to the person across the table from him, you know what, I'm hungry. Could you take some of that food and put it in my mouth? And that's what he did. He lifted it up, and he fed the person across from him. So he says, the Maggid of Shishuk used to say, Gan Eden and Gehenna are not places, they're people. When you see the person across from you, that's heaven. And I won't finish the rest. When you see the people, I don't just mean be'enei basar, but I mean to see, to recognize, to acknowledge the other human beings who live under your roof, to look at the person sitting across the Shabbos table from you. This banishes the spirit of loneliness from our homes. Okay. Now I want to go a little bit deeper. It says in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch that the reason that we bench Shabbos Licht is because of Shalom Bias. What's Shalom Bias? Shelo yekashel be'etz ay be'evan. That you shouldn't trip on a piece of wood or on a stone. And that's Shalom Bias. So, on a very simple level, what that means is you turn on the lights so that you're not bumping into things, because that's not pleasant. The Rebbe also learns this Shulchan Aruch Harav, al pi pnimius. The Rebbe says like this. Where do we find this lashon? Shelo yekashel be'etz or be'evan. There's a haftarah that we read in the 3 weeks, one of the Klose de Puranusa, the 3 haftarahs of tribulation. Yirmiyahu over there, he's chastising the Jewish people for idol worship. And he says, Oimrim, they say, le'etz, to a hunk of wood, ovi ota, you are my father. V'la even, yilaretonu. And they say to a stone, you gave birth to us. Now what does that mean? They say to us, to a piece of wood, you're my father. They say to a stone, you gave birth to us. What's this talking about? And how does this apply to us? So Chassidus comes and explains like this. Eitz ve'evin are symbolic. It doesn't literally have to be a getchka of wood or a getchka of stone. What it means is things of this world. And it doesn't necessarily mean somebody, he lights incense and he pours libations and he brings a korban, a cow or a goat. What does it mean to worship idols, according to Chassidus? All it means is to think that the different things in this world exist autonomously, that they have their own existence. When the truth is, there's only one existence. Hashem Echad, not just he's the only Eibishter, the only God, he's the only existence, he's it. That's all there is. So if you think that the boss who signs your paycheck is the one who's actually giving your parnasa, instead of realizing he's just signing off on the parnasa that the Eibishter is directly giving you, that's an Eitzer and Evan, that's an Avodah Zarah of the contemporary age. If you think that if you won't be in a particular relationship with this person, you'll never be loved and you'll never be secure, that's an Avodah Zarah of this age. Anytime you think that something of this world, whether it's a person or a thing or a situation, can help you or harm you or do anything for you or to you, that's an Eitz v'Evan, that's worshiping a hunk of wood or a stone. What's the solution? Solution is to realize there's nothing but God. So says the Rebbe, that's the Shalom. When you turn on the light, Shabbos lights, and you stop, Shabbos comes and says, pencils down, turn in your tests. We don't need your contribution anymore. The Eibishter's got this one. He's holding you. He's carrying you. You're done. When you have that act of surrender every Shabbos, and you remember that he's in charge. He's running the world, every detail of it. Now the lights go on, and now there's Shalom. Instead of seeing different things and different forces and different powers, you realize it's all one. It's just Eibishter. And now you won't be nichshel, shalaya koshel, you don't stumble, be'etz, or be'evan, on the stone or the wood. So the lights of Shabbos come in and remind us that we have one job. The Eibishter sent us to this world. It's all Elokus. Don't be distracted. Don't be taken in by what appear to be independent powers, because there's no such thing. I tell you, the Rebbe once spoke, Tafshin Yud, Parsha Zocher, mamish right after Yud Shvat, and there was an ufruf. Kazanovsky had an ufruf, so the Rebbe was speaking about Chesanim, and the Rebbe told a story from the Friedrich Rabbit about a Jewish home. He says that there was once two brothers. One was a chassid, and the other one was chassidically challenged. And, say it right? And so, and the Rebbe says, Kamuva, he says one was rich and one was poor. Kamuva, and the chassid was poor, thank you, okay. And he says he had a lot of daughters, and his brother, who was not a chassid and who was wealthy, had a lot of sons. So he went to go see if he'll help him to marry off his daughters. So he gets there, and the rich brother starts telling the poor brother, he says, look at my house, this is where I eat, this is where I sleep, this is where I entertain guests. What do you think? He says, you know what? You have too many rooms in your house. By me, there's one room. The Rebbe explains, what does this mean? What it means is like this. We can be fragmented. We have different identities as we go through our day. You know, in one place, in one setting, I live by one set of rules. And then another setting, another place, I live by another set of rules. In this place, I have one identity. In that place, I have another identity. In this place, this is the truth. And in this place, there's another truth. And that's called living a life of many rooms, fragmented, separate ultimately from your own true self. Cheder echad means the attitude, not literally you have to have one room. What it means is it's an attitude that even when the Eibishter will bench you with lots of gashmias and you have lots of different stuff, you don't have lots of different stuff. There's just one thing. It's all just elokus, and it's all just there for the shlichus. It's all there for one purpose. It's all there to serve Hashem. That's the light of Shabbos on a deeper level. I'll mention one more thing about Hadlaka, which is, and this is a vort that only the Rebbe could say. The truth is, every vort that the Rebbe says is only a vort that the Rebbe could say. But you hear what I mean when I tell you the vort. We mentioned before, ner mitzvah teira or. Every mitzvah is a light. But Shabbos candles are a literal light. So they're a light on two levels. What do we know about light? What's the speed of light? I'm telling you, this is the Rebbe's word. What's the speed of light? You don't know? 186,000, roughly. Roughly. We can, good enough for purposes of practical purposes. 186,000 miles per second. Okay. What's the circumference of the earth? The circumference, the wide, if you measure from any point on earth all the way around the long way and back again to that point. About 27,000 miles. So the Rebbe says like this. If you light a light on any spot on the face of this earth, if there's no obstruction, how fast does it take that light to go all the way around the world and back again? Almost 7 times in a second. The Rebbe says something that happens that quick, you know, like in Gashmias, you have something that's a mashahu, and then you have something that's not even a mashahu. So it's like it doesn't even exist. In time also, you have a unit of time that's tiny, and then you have a unit of time that's so small that it's negligible, it's no time. So the Rebbe says like this, every mitzvah, whenever you do it, wherever you do it, any place on the earth, it has an instant effect all around the world at that very, very moment. Instantly. Shabbos candles, even begashmias, you can see it as a living mashal. That when a Jewish girl is empowered to add one more candle to the lights that her family lights every Shabbos, that has an instantaneous effect on the entire world. Think of the power. Think of the power that a little Jewish girl has when she lights that candle the first time. Think of the power. So again, this is about turning on the lights and seeing what's already there. You thought you have a cute little 3-year-old girl in your house. No, you don't realize she is a mover and a shaker. With her light, she changes the whole world. Like I said, this is the lesson. Everything we have already, there's so much more. There's so much more. I'll just mention, because I was asked to maybe be a little bit practical. When we're talking about, on the literal level, getting together Shabbos and repeating a vort, saying something you heard in shul, or maybe something that you learned, I want to suggest also that one way that a family can bond together is to sing a song, a nigun. But to really sing the nigun, to teach it to the kids and make sure that they know it, and then sing it all together, and everyone get into it. The Rebbe, one Vav Tishrei, he's describing how Jewish mothers are known for rocking their babies to sleep with a lullaby, and they sing to them about the Rojin Kiz mit Mandolin and Teres die beste Schere. The Rebbe didn't say that his mother sang this lullaby to him, but the Rebbe mentioned it's a lullaby that mothers sang. I will tell you, however, about Rebbe Tzimchana, that she was an incredible balas menagein, an incredible musical ear, and someone who preserved many nigunim. And I will mention, this is fan theory. We call this fan theory in 2019. But there's a connection, maybe, probably, could be, between the Rebbe Tzimchana and the Simchas Torah Nigunim that the Rebbe taught. I'll tell you like this. We know Tov Shin Tez Zayin. So 57:16 was the first Simchas Torah that Rebbe taught in Nigun. And the Rebbe did it for 9 more years. And the 9th year, Tov Shin Chov Daled, the Rebbe taught Hu Elokeinu. And then the Rebbe said, since we don't know what the situation will be next year, I'm going to teach a second nigun this Simchas Torah. And before dawn, the Rebbe taught the slow Ki Anu. The fast Ki Anu the Rebbe had already taught a few years previously, but the slow Ki Anu the Rebbe taught Tavshin Chav Daled as a second nigun. That Simchas Torah, saying we don't know what's going to be the situation next year. And as we know, the following year, days before Simchas Torah on Vav Tishrei Tavshin Chav Hey was the Rebbe Tzimchane's passing. So a nigun that the Rebbe taught. Okay, who's keeping track of the 3 mitzvahs? Where are we up to? 1, 2, or 3? What? 2. So after Hadlokeh, we have Challah. And as we mentioned, the idea again is new eyes, fresh perspective on all the stuff that's already in our lives. You know, today we are more blessed than ever with material abundance. If our great-grandparents would see how we live, they would think that we're kings and queens. And yet, we decry the evils of materialism and conspicuous consumption and all of the capitalistic values that sort of seeped into our innocent little shtetl life. And you would almost think it would be better off just to be poor and keep it simple, and then your kids wouldn't cry for fancy things. Actually, halavai, it should be the kids crying for the fancy things. But, right, it would be simple. Just get rid of it all. Go to a simpler time. But that's not the lesson. That's not the lesson. The lesson is to have a healthy relationship with Gashmias. What's a healthy relationship with Gashmias? I mean, we spoke about it a little bit before, about Cheder Echad, about in Gashmias realizing that all the physical material things in your life are there for one purpose. They're really only there for one thing. But where you really see this is with Challah. In fact, I'll mention also the Megala Amukes again. He says that Reisha Sarisi Seichem Tarimu Challah, that the first of your dough you should offer a donation, that those 4 words, the Rosh Hashanah, are Begamatria 678, which is Klipas Noiga. He says that the idea of Challah is not just Challah, Hafroshas Challah, taking the dough part. It's not even just eating kosher. It's a whole attitude towards Klipas Noiga, toward the mundane. That a Jew has to have a healthy attitude toward the material world. That includes eating, but it means all of the material world, and to use everything the way that it's meant to be used. That's what Challah means. Now, there's an interesting question that Rebbe asks about the pasuk, Pasha Shlach, where it speaks about Challah. It says, V'hoya bi'acholchem milechem, when you will eat from bread, tarimu truma Hashem. You should take off a donation for Hashem. So the Rebbe asks a question. It's actually the question of the Ramaz in Zayar, which is, why does it say bi'acholchem lechem, that when you eat challah, when you eat bread, you should take challah? It's not dependent upon the eating. It's dependent upon the preparation. When you make the dough, part of preparing the dough is to take off the challah. It's neither here nor there whether you eat it. Of course, in the end, you end up eating it, but that's divrei reshus. That's optional. The mitzvah is taking the challah, and when do you do it? When you're preparing the dough. So the Rebbe answers like this. The pasuk isn't explaining the parameters of the din, of the law in Shulchan Aruch. The pasuk is explaining to you the purpose in life. Do you know the purpose of Tarimu Truma L'Hashem? Be'acholchem. It's when you eat. It's for the purpose of using the Gashmias. And the Rebbe's Medaik, he says, that's why we call it Reishis Harisei Seichem. Reishis, the first of your dough. What does that imply? It implies that when you give the part to Hashem, you're just getting started. Where do you really finish off? Is when you use it in your day-to-day life. It says, Al Derech, there's a vort, the Rebbe asks, how come with fruit trees that they start off as orla, which is shalish klipas atameas, completely usher, and then it becomes kodesh hilulim, which is kedusha, where you have to treat it like ma'aser sheni and only eat it in Jerusalem, and then it becomes klipas naiga, it becomes normal. Seemingly, it goes from the lowest to the highest to the medium. It's like out of order. It should, go in a progression. The Rebbe says that is from lowest to highest. Kedusha isn't the highest level. Regular day-to-day life is the highest level. Kedesh Hilulim, Neter Avoy, the 4th year when you only eat the fruits in Jerusalem, that's a preparation for what? For real life. For taking these fruits into your day-to-day life. Taking the material blessings that Hashem put in your life and using them. So again, that's what it means that Challah is a healthy attitude toward Gashmias. I saw once in a Sikha, the Rebbe asked, how come in Chassidus, or among Chassidim, I guess I should say, the word balabatish is a dirty word. Like if you say balabatisha hanochas, right? Balabatisha worldviews. That's an insult. It's not a compliment among Chassidim. Or if you say a balabos, well, what's so terrible about being a balabos? It just means he owns a home. So the Rebbe says like this. Sedor nit mehr wie ein balabos auf der Welt. And so a person who calls himself a balabos, what is he saying? He's saying that the Eibishter has his balabatischkeit, the Eibishter has his ownership, But I also have some ownership, okay? A smaller degree, limited, but I'm also a balabos. I also have my property. The Rebbe says that's why balabatish is a dirty word. Because what's the proper attitude? The proper attitude is everything I have is Hashem's. What does it mean everything you have is Hashem's? You have to give it all to Him? No, that's the whole point. Give the first part to Him, and then use the rest of it in a healthy way throughout your day. So what does that mean? Tachlis geret, regular, pile mamish, practical. Am I saying that everybody has to treat their house like Moshe Rabashkin and sleep on a park bench on Eastern Parkway until Cheshvan when the 2,000 Israelis leave his house? Okay, I mean, ask your wife, but what I'm saying is when the Sitin Shabbaton calls you, or when Chabad on campus Shabbaton calls you, or whenever it is, Tishrei, guests come in, what do you think you have a house for? Why do we have a house? Whatever it is, whatever the Eibishter gave me, I'm not the balabos. The Eibishter is the balabos. Sto nit mehr wie ein balabos auf der Welt. That's it. He's the only balabos. And when I remember that, then I enjoy my gashmias. I get it all back. Tell you a mashal I heard actually. I heard this from a guy who was talking about what it means to hit bottom, to lose everything in life. A guy, an addict, a real rock bottom, low bottom case. So he said like this. He says a guy is driving in his car at night. He's totally depressed. And he's so broken. He says, God, my life is ruined. Please give me a new life. So God hears his prayer and he says to the guy, okay, you're in luck. Today I have on sale a new life. He says, oh, great. God says, it's a very affordable price. You know how much? He says, no, how much? God says, how much do you have on you? The guy says, I think I have like $20. So God says, yeah, well, you're in luck. The price for the new life is $20. He says, but that's everything I got. Then you're going to clean me out. You see the car I'm driving, the gas is almost empty. Then I'm not going to have money to get gas and run out of gas. God says, oh, now that you mentioned it, I just noticed you have a car. The price for your new life today is $20 and your car. So he says, you know what? If I don't have my car, I'm not going to be able to get to work. So he says, oh, good. You mentioned a job. That reminds me, the price for your new life today is $20, your car and your job. He says, hold on a second. If I don't have my job, then how am I going to pay the mortgage? God says, oh, good. A house, yeah. The price for your new life today is $20, your car, your job, and your house. He says, if I give you my house, then where are my wife and children going to live? God says, oh, wife and children, that's beautiful. The price for your new life today is $20, your car, your job, your house, your wife, your children. You got anything more to say? The guy says, So God says, good. Now, one more thing I need from you, okay? The guy says, He knows. He better not open his mouth because it only gets worse. So God says, okay. So I want one thing from you. You see this $20? God says to me, see this $20? Not your $20, it's my $20. But I want you to spend it. But it's mine, so you got to spend it on only things that I want to buy. Not what you want, what I want. It's my $20. See this car? You used to have a car just like this. But you don't. It's not your car. It's my car. But I want you to drive it. But since it's my car, you only take it where I want to go. You see this job? It's not your job. It's my job. You show up there and you do business the way I want business done. You see this house? It's not your house. It's my house, God says. And therefore, I want you to use it. You're not the balabos. I'm the balabos. You're going to only use this house the way God wants his house to be used. And he says, see this wife and children. They're not your wife and children. They're my wife and children, God says. And you're going to treat them like God's wife and children. Can you do that all for me? Guy says, God says, good. Then here's your $20. Here's your car. Here's your job. Here's your house. Here's your wife. Here's your children. And here's your new life. What's the difference between everything you have in your life already and having a completely new life? It's just a question of who is the balabos. You give it all to him. You just give off a little first portion. The rest of it, you get to use it at your discretion. But use it like a mensch. Use it for good things. Make good choices. Have a healthy relationship with Gashmis. That's challah. Okay, we have one more mitzvah to go, right? Or should we do that one next year? Trying to be sensitive about the time. Babysitters and all, strengthen our homes. The off-the-record comments, I mumble, I say low so that only half the audience should hear them. What do we have left? Nida. How can we talk about that in public? Right? So I'm going to take my lesson from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who would farbreng in public and on satellite, and had no problem talking about Taras HaMishpacha. In fact, I'll tell you a story that I just verified a few days ago. I saw Reb David Shalom Pape, and I asked him the story of the Mashiach Times. You know the story of the Mashiach Times? Tavshim Hey, Tu B'Shvat. They made a cover where the shpai was planting trees, and every one of the trees was one of the 10 Mivtzoyim. But the one that was supposed to be Taras HaMishpacha, he didn't want to put, because he didn't know how to deal with it in a children's magazine. So he wanted to figure something out. So what he did is, there's a sikha that Rebbe spoke to Tzivas Hashem, where it's actually an amazing sikha, where the Rebbe really gets into the psychology of a child and describes the child's perspective. The Rebbe describes a little kid comes downstairs and he sees there's, I think, a piece of cake or something, and he wants the piece of cake, but he didn't wash Negelwasser, and he has this conundrum that he's asked, did you wash your hands yet? And he's afraid that if he'll take the time to wash his hands, he'll miss out on the cake, and he says a lie. And it's a whole sikha that Rebbe says there about telling the truth. So, David Shalom, what he did is, he took out Taras HaMishpacha and he put in telling the truth. Telling the truth. Okay. So they used to give the magazine covers into the Rebbe for Hagah. Anyways, he gets back the Rebbe's own holy handwriting and asks him, Echad Mcvoy Nishmat. One of the Mivtzoyim fell out. What happened here? I thought, kids, you don't worry about kids. These are the Mivtzoyim. You say it as it is. I'll tell you something also. Somebody says, I don't know who it happened to. They say the story with different Rosh Hashivas. There was a Bachar who said that he was learning Ksubais. He's giving Machshava Zoros. He told us Rosh Hashiva, and the Rosh Hashiva said, Halavai, that the Machshava Zoros are from the Gemara Ksubas. What I'm saying is that every Bachar will learn when he comes to Sefer Noshim in Rambam. So whether he's learning Perek Echod or Gimel Prokim, he'll come to Sefer Noshim, and whatever he'll see there, trust me, Halavai, he should learn everything there that he learns in Sefer Noshim from the Rambam. It should be the first time he hears those things, and not on Kingston Avenue. And if he'll learn them in that context, everything's holy and everything's good. I want to tell you something. The Rebbe didn't shy away from any topics. One Vav Tishrei, the Rebbe spoke about family planning. Do you know that I get letters every week for the Ami about family planning, and I'm not allowed to answer them because it's a family magazine? Strike that from the record. But the Rebbe spoke about these things. So let me talk about Taras HaMishpacha to you. If challah means a healthy attitude toward Gashmias, then what's Taras HaMishpacha? Turning on the lights and seeing the pnimius, the real meaning of personal, private, intimate family life, and having a healthy attitude toward that essential part of life. The Rebbe mentioned that these three mitzvahs, what's interesting about them is that all of them are things that all human beings do. Non-Jews do them too. But what they do is they sanctify these aspects of life that are there anyway. You got to turn on the light anyway. You got to eat anyway. You got to procreate anyway. But do it like a Jew. Make it holy. And what I'll tell you about Taras HaMishpacha is actually the biggest light of all. Even bigger than Hadlakas Ner. How can I say that? Because it's a sikha. The Rebbe says like this. Ner mitzvah v'teira. Again, that pasuk. Every mitzvah is a candle. The Rebbe says, but we all know that even if you would light 1,000 candles in a room, that's nothing compared to if it's a bright sunny day outside and you open the window and the sunlight streams in. So the brightest you could make a room manually by lighting candles is nothing compared to just the natural sunlight, how bright that would make a room. So the Rebbe says like this. Every mitzvah is a candle because every mitzvah ultimately, even though they're Hashem's mitzvahs, but it's Avedas ha'odam. People have to do them and people are limited and therefore our mitzvah is somewhat limited. Okay, like we mentioned, it goes around the world instantaneously and that's true, but even in unlimited, there are dargas, there are levels of limited and even more, unlimited and even more unlimited. So the Rebbe says, every mitzvah that you do, it's like lighting a candle. He says, there's one mitzvah in the whole world that's like letting in the light of the sun. He says, the most powerful light in the world, in fact, in all worlds, in all Seder Stylist, the most powerful light is the light of a Neshamah. Chelik elikami mal, mamash. It's the most powerful light. It's like the light of the sun compared to the light of a candle. We can't make such a light. Only Hashem can make such a light. But what happens is when the neshama comes down into a body, so then it's covered in that body. And there's this interface. It's called a lavush, a garment. But it's like this covering, and it's ma'ilum and mastir, and it doesn't allow the infinite, intense, sun-like light of the neshama to shine in this world. Until you do something that's like opening a window. When a neshama is born and comes into the world and is conceived with the benefit of tahara, it's like opening the light, opening the window, so the sunlight, so the neshama can shine into this world and have an effect in the world. That's the most powerful light that there could ever be. And all of us who are parents know this, that when you see your child, that is a more godly light and a more infinite light than anything else in the world that you could possibly achieve. And all we have to do is just open the window, allow the light to stream in. And the Rebbe also mentions anyone who is Ayse in Mcvoy and in Yanam of Tejada, who helps to open up the window so that the sunlight of the soul can shine into the world, Hashem will open up all windows to allow all of the light of his blessings to enter their lives. And clearly, this includes those who have children and who have many children, who are blessed with children. I mentioned the Rebbe spoke about family planning. The Rebbe asks a very interesting question. How come in the Gemara, in Chazal, and in fact this is the custom, whenever we bless somebody, we speak about the three categories of blessing as Boneh, Chaya, Mezayna. Boneh, Chaya, Mezayna correspond to the three mitzvahs. You realize that? It's interesting though, because like we mentioned before, the order, chronologically you do them in life, is Hachein. So first you bench Licht, and then you're dealing with Challah and meal preparation and Gashmias, and then married life. And yet, when we give a person a bracha, we say first children, boneh, then chaya, which is health, which corresponds to light, and then chaya, mezainis, gashmias, sustenance, which is like the challah. Why do we do it in that order? It should be the opposite order. It should go in the same order as Hachain. So the Rebbe says, the answer is so simple. Any child who learns Chumash knows about Avram Avinu. That Echad Hoya Avram. And Avram told the Eibishter, with all the brachas that the Eibishter gave him, he said, what's it going to be if my attendant, if Eliezer inherits me? Was geht on die alle brachas, die alle Sachen, das ist what the Rebbe says. Kinder darf man haben. What's life itself worth without children? So the Rebbe says, that's the word. First is children, then life is life, then sustenance is sustenance. We're worried about how many children we can afford. I'm going to tell you something. First is children, then comes health, then comes money. And I don't mean it in a prioritization. That's not, I don't think how the Rebbe meant it. The Rebbe, well, that too, but I think the Rebbe also meant this is the way to go about it, to achieve what you want to achieve. First, have children that will lead to the other brachas, to health and to wealth. Not the opposite, God forbid. But in order to see that truth and not to be fooled by the balabata shahanachas, we need to turn on the light and to realize that the most incredible infinite light that could ever shine is to bring one more child into the world. And like the Rebbe said, that this next child that's born could be the one to bring Mashiach. I'm going to behave myself and I'm going to wrap it up over here. Should I tell you one more thing or two more things? Okay, you asked for it. I'm not such a bucky. I was going through, they say when an Amma Audits tells you a din, believe him because he learned it yesterday. So, trust me, I've seen these sikhs recently. So I was going through the Vav Tishrei Farbrengens. And these are the Gimel Amudim that strengthen the home, Jewish home, women. And I'm thinking, isn't this Orthodox Judaism? We're talking about women. And there was one thing I never saw that the Rebbe should mention on Vav Tishrei. It was the elephant in the room. The elephant in the I bought a friend for his birthday. I bought him an elephant. He said, thanks. I said, don't mention it. Okay. So what's the elephant in the room to mention? What word? I didn't see the whole time in any Vav Tishrei Farbrengen, the Rebbe is speaking about women and Shalom Bias, strengthening our homes. I didn't see the word tznius. Like I said, isn't this Orthodox Judaism? So I'm going to reveal my sources. So I called Chaim Sholbrook from Lahak and I said, is this true? Is this a fact? He says, I'll get back to you. So he gets back to me. He says, the Rebbe never mentioned tznius of Tishrei. Now, that's a fact. That's just, you could go search it however you want. Ula yesh leimer. What does that mean to us? The Rebbe said these are gimel amudim. These are the pillars. What does it mean, pillars? It means the structural integrity of the entire building is dependent on these. When these are strong, everything else is strong. When these are not strong, go fill in the rest. Anyone with half a brain, or I should say half a heart, knows that when you see someone, you see a girl struggling with tznius, that's the most outer symptom. Like I said, if you have half a brain or half a heart, you know that's just a symptom. Don't take an aspirin because you have a chronic headache. If you have a headache every day, go to a doctor and find out what the underlying conditions are that cause the headache. Tznius is a Okay, the Rebbe did speak about tznius at Fabrengen. It's not that the Rebbe never spoke about it. But it's a secondary thing. And by secondary, I don't mean to put it down and say it's not important. What I'm saying is when we have the mitzvahs of Chaneh, everything else falls into place. Strengthen a Jewish girl. Empower her. Tell her about the light that she fills up the entire world with as soon as she's 3 years old. Tell her that she makes a light that travels around the entire world in an instant. You know, the Miriam Bas Bilga Sicha, which we all know, that the Rebbe said that also Vav Tishrei. And what we don't maybe remember is that the Rebbe said it was connected to Mivtza Neshek. I mean, it's a Himmeldik Ayse about a limit schos for a Neshamah, but on the most simple level, the Rebbe said it's connected to Mivtza Neshek. Why? Because Miriam Bas Bilga, because of her actions, her whole family was punished. They were affected negatively. So the Midah Tova is Meruba, is disproportionately greater. So therefore, what do we see? The effect that one Yiddish Ameidl can have on a family, on an entire family, and for Doirei Doireis. So tell a Jewish girl how powerful she is. Tell her about the light that she fills up in the whole world when she mentions Licht. Tell her about the healthy relationship with Gashmias that she's able to set the tone of in the home through Akela's Kasha and through what Challah symbolizes. And ultimately, when the time is right, tell her about how she's able to sanctify the personal, private life of a married couple. And if you'll empower her in these 3 amudim, then the whole house will be strong and everything else takes care of itself. I'll just share a story. Not my story, but I asked Rabbi Friedman if I could tell it. So Ramanas tells me that he was coming home one day, he was a teenager. He's walking home, and of course, he was neighbors with Rebbe Tzimchana. And as he's coming up Kingston Avenue, he sees on the corner of Kingston and President a very large and very loud and boisterous or animated woman who's wearing pants and a sleeveless top. And she's talking really loud and really animated. And who is she speaking to on the corner? Rebbe Tzimchana. So the Manas comes over and he kind of eyes the situation. He's thinking, should I get involved? Is everything okay? And Rebbe Tzimchana saw him looking. And she gave him a look. Don't interfere. Leave it alone. Everything's good over here. It's all good. And he listens, and she's saying to the Rebbe Tzimchana, I hear there's a very, very holy, big rabbi in this neighborhood with a synagogue on Eastern Parkway. And Rebbe Tzimchana is beaming with nachas. Rebbe Tzimchana was one of the Rebbe's biggest mukusharim. People come to the Rebbe strengthens the root, the foundation. Everything else is going to take care of itself. It's all going to fall into place. Okay, we have to remember the amudim that the Rebbe set forth. I told you I'm going to say 2 more things. That was one of them, and here's the last one. And this is really it, because now I'm going into real editorialship, which is a nice fancy English word for boich svaras, but I made it up and I'm proud of it. So at least I admit that I made it up. Thank you. No, not what I just said, what I'm about to say. And the story is true. Just my commentary on the story is made up. We mentioned how the Rebbe Tzimchana was one of the Rebbe's biggest mukusharim. I mean, I say that without any exaggeration. I mean, her devotion, first of all, to her husband, the Mesiras Nefesh, to her husband, and to going with him in exile and keeping a home with him in the most difficult circumstances that we know about. But also, in addition, the Rebbe Tzimchana was such a makusher. She was such a chassid of the Rebbe. Rosh Hashanah Tovshin Chav Hey. She was already told, the doctors already told her not to leave the house. mitzad health. And she went anyways to Shul Rosh Hashanah the first day to hear Tekiyas. And it was very hard on her. Begashmias, took a toll. And obviously we know what happened 6 days later. The second day of Rosh Hashanah, she didn't leave the house. She couldn't. She literally couldn't. And she was telling Beryl Eunuch that I know yesterday to go to Tekiyas took so much out of me, and the doctor said, but I want to tell you, it was worth it because the Tekiyas were so good. Every day from Chav Ches Sivan, Tov Shin Zayin, the Rebbe visited his mother. You're going to tell me the Rebbe wouldn't have visited his mother that day too? You're going to tell me that if she wanted to hear the Rebbe's Tekiyas, she couldn't have heard the Rebbe's Tekiyas in her apartment if she had wanted? But she wanted to see Melech B'Yofyeh. She wanted to be there in 770, Rosh Hashanah, like a chosid. And she told Beryl Eunuch, she said, ihr weist nicht, was ihr vermogt. You, the Chassidim, you guys, you don't know what you've got. She says, und ich sag das nicht, weil ich bin eine Mame. Nur, weil der Emes ist Ayse. I don't say it because I'm his mother. I say it because this is the truth. You guys don't know what you've got. Rebbe Tzimchana knew what Vasfara Rebbe she had. And she did what a chassid does. I don't think this is an expression. I don't think Rebbe Tzimchana was throwing around words. I think she was saying a message, and it was one of the last messages that she said in this world. If tonight is about turning on the lights and appreciating everything that we have and seeing it with new eyes and fresh eyes, Rebbe Tzimchana said, "Ihr feist nicht, was ihr vermogt. You guys don't know what you..." We have a Rebbe. We have a Rebbe. We need to open our eyes every day, and see it on a new level, and recognize the gift that Hashem gave us, and how privileged we are, and how lucky we are, and the schusim that we have. Just tell you one. I got to intro the song somehow, right? Tavshin Chof. Leibel Raskin was in 770 from Morocco. And at 6 a.m. after Hakafis, he came to Rebbe Tzimchana's home. And what did she ask him? What do you think she asked him? Simchas Torah, 6 in the morning. Was for a niggin is gewen heint? That's right. What was the niggin? And she said, or he said, the Baraskin answered, he tried to sing it. He didn't know the niggin very well. He said, Rachamona, he was trying to sing it. And immediately, when Tzimchana recognized it, she says, "Das ist mein Taten's niggin." This is a niggin from Reb Meir Shleima, Yanovsky, Rachamona. So we asked the merciful one, who answers the brokenhearted, that he should answer us, We should already be reunited with the Rebbe should be reunited with his parents, all of us together with Mashiach, B'Kodev, now.